Like we always do about this time.
Let's go.
Hello, Escobar season has returned. Hello, it's Astral Black. Microphone check 1 2. What is this? A brand new episode or review of the new Nas album, NASIR. Now, I don't think I need to give too much of an introduction to Nas because he is a Queensbridge legend. He is a hip-hop legend and just an overall legend in music. Overall, he's been going at it for at least 20 years now. Illmatic dropped in 94. I was born in 94, so that's like 24 years nearly, practically 24 years. So I don't think I need to give too much of an introduction, but I think I should just clue people in to who Nas is if you are just watching this video and you have necessarily no background info on Nas or hip-hop in general. So Nas, Queensbridge legend, Queensbridge MC. I'm just doing one take today, guys. And he is probably one of the most memorable and iconic MCs to have ever touched the mic. He is 90s version of Rakim, if you guys know who I'm talking about. He has dropped some very monumental classics in the game. So Illmatic, It Was Written. I probably could put Stillmatic in there. Maybe not so classic, but I would definitely say it's a strong album. But Nas has some serious chops. He is not a random MC. He's been doing this for a long time and he's fantastic at what he does. A little bit inconsistent though. I would say that sometimes he does drop things a little bit questionable, like Nostradamus and Uchi Wally. That's probably the lowest points of Nas' career. But overall, he delivers very detailed street poetry that has been quoted in Ivy League schools and universities and colleges. So he's good, to say the least. But going on, this is his new album, and it comes at a little bit of a weird time in his career because he's not really doing much. He's much like an Andre 3000 where he doesn't really do anything for a long time, but we respect him anyway, and he might come out of nowhere. But whereas Andre 3000 has the occasional feature here and there, he might drop a feature on Frank Ocean or Future or something random like that. Nas is very quiet. We didn't hear a word from Nas until I think it was last year or 2 years ago from DJ Khaled's Major Key album, where he dropped the Nas Album Done track, where it was kind of just building up hype for this album that we have here. This also comes in the series of albums that Kanye West has been spearheading or just executive producing. So I like to call it the Wyoming series, seeing that they're all recorded in Wyoming. And why I say it comes in a really weird part of Nas' career is because he doesn't really need to prove himself anymore. He is a legend. He's been doing this for a very long time. I don't think he has to make a radio single or anything at this point. He can just kind of make music for him. So I kind of see it as like a 444 situation where you've done everything you need to do. You're just kind of making music for yourself. Much like what Eminem made and Jay-Z's made. I think this is Nas' sort of thing to say, it's been a good career, I'm going to just drop music that I just have my thoughts in it. There's nothing really tying anything together, it's just me personally, which probably explains why it's just called NASIR, which is his name of course. So let's just get into the review. In fact, let me just start off with the things I don't like, just to get those out of the way. I think some of the things that I feel hold this album back from being really good, it's just some very minor things that I felt Nas could have just done effortlessly and kind of cleared up without having to go through all these series of tracks. So what I mean is that I feel that Nas's flow is quite subdued for something so urgent. Now, of course, some of the topics he tackles, from black empowerment to police brutality to lust to just black empowerment as well. So there's a lot of braggadocious bars in here, but it's not so much where it makes you eye roll. It's more kind of like, well, this is Nas he's come from the guy, he's gone from Queensbridge, he's at this status in his career where he's just kind of, like, his music just speaks for itself, to be honest. And I felt that lyrically this album is very good, like, that's he's come to expect it from Nas. But what really kind of bothers me about it is that flow-wise it could have been much better. I felt like his delivery was a little bit lazy. Now, it doesn't take anything away from the lyrics. The lyrics are great, but it's just, I felt they just need that extra oomph. And also, another thing I didn't quite like about this album was the production. Now, the production isn't bad. There isn't any trash beats. Every beat here is really good. Every beat plays its part. But I do feel that it's a bit thin in some places. It needs a bit more meat on its bones. Like, for example, one of my favourite songs on here that I have a love-hate relationship is The Cop Shot the Kid, which has a very, very generous Slick Rick sample of a children's story. And although I like how it's laid out and how it's chopped, I felt that Kanye didn't really layer any snares or any kicks on this that I felt that it could have done with that extra oomph, because it kind of just lets the snare do all the drum patterns and samples for it, which I guess is okay, but I felt that putting it on some headphones and putting it on my speakers, it didn't really do it much justice. I felt like it just needed that little bit of oomph. But I digress. I think just the production in general is good, but thin in some parts. So, for example, the opening track of the album, what's it called? Not for Radio, was great. It did bring me back to a vibe like Hate Me Now. It did have the same P Diddy sort of spoken parts over the chorus, very classical samples taken for this beat as well. But it just missed that epicness that Hate Me Now had, where it just kind of dropped in the very catchy chorus. And I know it's not, like I said before at the beginning, it's not about catchiness, but it just needs to be, just to stick with me. I can put on Hate Me Now right now, and I'll still just get hyped for it. Excuse me. But what else was there? I think that's really that's it in terms of like production things. I think there's other songs as well. I think it was White Label that was a bit too basic for Nas and too slow. And that's another thing. These instrumentals, most of them are quite slow, which kind of forces Nas to really slow down his flow, which I don't see as too bad inherently. Like, there's nothing wrong with a slow flow, but after hearing that for a bit often during the album, makes things quite uneventful at moments. But he does pick it up on everything, which, even though it's a very cavernous, slowed down track, he doesn't find a way to pick up his flow a little bit more, and gives a very lyrical track, essentially about I would say gluttony. I think it's meant to be like 7 deadly sins and how it's laid out, and I think it's very well done. I think it's about like the line about Starbucks, which is really clever, really sharp, and also about how showing like a baby, like when the baby gets it's like vaccines and that, and just kind of like showing it pain and how the world works. I think it was really interesting parts how he broke down, and how, what was the line I liked the most? I think he said along the lines of how people want to be included so bad that they don't appreciate the things they have. And I think he's dropping really, really good lyrics all over this album. I just felt that little things like flow and delivery could have just made this like perfect. But going back to let's talk about the things I really appreciate about this album. Is obviously the lyrics are really good. Nas hasn't lost his pen game at all. Really good quotables I just mentioned as well. Nas isn't really rapping about anything particularly mindless. There's always something interesting to listen to. You can always tune into Nas and really dig deep into his music, which I've been doing lately. Couple more things. What else can I do? I think I can notice some of my favourite tracks on here, which are Adam and Eve, which has a very nice sample, and it wasn't too thick, had a nice bass line and kick drums to it as well. And honestly, Nas picks up his flow, picks up his delivery. Very good track, very exciting track. And even though Simple Things is a little bit slower, it's really beautiful how it just caps the album out. These synthesizers are really, really good. I think that's probably the highlight for me, just for what the album ended. Not to say I didn't like the album. I did like this album quite a bit, but there was a certain things that I couldn't really ignore that I felt that Nas could have just done that would have just made this album just go completely overboard, just complete OTT, just give that extra oomph. It's just missing that extra spice, you know what I mean? But also length as well holds this album back. It could have been a little bit longer. I know Kanye's doing these 7 album sort of thing projects going on. I 7-track albums that I like, but sometimes people don't always make use of. Sometimes people don't know how to make good use of their time in such a small length, and I feel Nas needed a little bit more room. But just from those little gripes and such, this is still a good album. I feel this is a really good album to sort of end a career off. If Nas is ending his career, if he ended his career tomorrow, this will probably be a really nice album to end everything off. So I do have to give it some credibility that it's not the worst thing ever. It's not the best thing ever. It just comes off as being decent for Nas. Now, what score would I give this? I would probably give this I'll give this a hot 7 out of 10. Now, I really wanted to give it more, but it's just those things, those ignorable little things in the background that I felt could have been dealt with that would have made this album fantastic. But either way, good album. I liked it. I'll probably go back to a few songs here and there. But yeah, I'm going to sign out and say, goodbye. Astral Black signing out. Peace.